President Trump has long defended Mike Waltz. Even when Signalgate first came out, he said that, he trusts him and he still believes in him. In terms of a promotion versus a demotion, the National Security Advisor is in the West Wing. He sees the president every day. He gets a security detail, much like the chief of staff, that other members of the administration don't necessarily get. He also has been at the forefront of most of, if not all, of these foreign policy negotiations, particularly when it comes to Ukraine and Russia, as the administration tries to push forward that they are making progress. They're announcing that critical minerals agreement just the other day. He was the one that went to Saudi Arabia to kick off those talks between...
So he's been out there front and center.
Exactly. Meanwhile, not to say, though, that the ambassador to the UN has also been a high-profile position for this administration, considering Elise Stefanik wasn't able to take that role. So it does seem like it is a shift here, but in terms of a demotion or a promotion, having access to the White House every day, this is going to be a very stark difference, not to mention he's likely going to be moving out of Washington to complete it.
Right. He can't just walk in, right, from an office. It's interesting. Can he still, what, I'm always thinking about the optics of something like this. Like, what does it mean? I mean, he still has a job in the Trump administration, right? But it's a different job.
Definitely. Particularly, it's a little bit more removed, right, from being at the forefront of negotiating these deals that the administration, particularly as we cross into the 100-day mark, is trying to show that they are making progress on. So when you have somebody that has been leading them now no longer leading them, of course, that's going to raise questions about momentum and who picks up those talks. But, of course, we are now learning that the Secretary of State, at least, will serve in this role as an interim capacity, who has also been part of the negotiations.
Any idea at this point whose names have been bandied about for taking on a full-time role as National Security Advisor now that Mike Waltz is out?
Well, there are reports that Steve Witkoff could potentially move into that. Of course, he's been serving in this special envoy capacity. This would be, of course, a much more firmer role. He would get that security detail that I was mentioning, and he would be at the White House every day. And sort of have that more firm administration position.
But that would also leave a vacancy at the role that he's had, which has been traveling around the world to many different countries on behalf of the president.
Definitely. But still, President Trump is basically signaling to us, though, that he has a pretty long roster of people that he has been pulling into these different situations. However, Witkoff has, of course, been absolutely pivotal. He's the one that is going directly to the Kremlin, for example, to meet face-to-face with Putin as they try to get some sort of movement here.
So Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, okay for now?
Well, with that said, when we are talking about Signalgate, there is an Inspector General's investigation currently going into place, and that's at the Pentagon. That is specifically looking into the Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth. And he has faced some renewed criticism in recent weeks, since it appears there might have been perhaps another Signalgate, so-called, that he had his wife and his brother also added to some chats.
Marco Rubio is very busy right now. Our own David Gura reminding us that he's right now Secretary of State, interim National Security Advisor, acting administrator of USAID, and also acting archivist for the United States. That's a lot of work. Those are a lot of jobs.
That is a lot of work, particularly when you look at how this White House is trying to make progress on so many different foreign policy fronts, since President Trump had pledged that he could help bring an end to most of these conflicts, and quickly. Of course, we have Israel and Hamas, Ukraine and Russia, restarting talks with Iran when it comes to their nuclear capabilities. So it is and pair that also with the fact that the State Department is trying to actually slim down, pare back on its departments, both in the United States, but also its offices around the world.
Well, it sounds like Marco Rubio is doing his part, like doing multiple jobs. One last question. Why did President Trump have to do this?
That is a good question.
Like, I'm just curious, like political strategists, I think it felt like this, it's been out of the news cycle.
It has, and the person who brought it back in the news cycle wasn't Mike Waltz. It was Pete Hegseth.
Right. So I'm just curious.
So according to our reporting, one person familiar with the matter who asked not to be identified, because obviously this is private discussions, said that the president actually soured on Waltz after the Signal chat incident, because he believed that Waltz had erred when he asked Elon Musk to look into how that journalist had gotten into his phone. And apparently, according to this person telling Bloomberg News, he should have just admitted that he made a mistake and then let it go, instead of implying that there was something else here at play, something else. How did this reporter get in? It appears, according to our reporting, that President Trump just wanted to, dust it off and move on, but perhaps Waltz himself maybe implicated himself a little bit more.